Hello everyone, Ember here, and welcome back to a new video. In this one, I would like to take a look at the Mega Lucario deck review from the set Mega Evolution. So, Mega Lucario X has 340 HP, making him quite tanky for a Stage 1 Mega, although of course he will be giving up 3 prize cards, which is a bit rough. He has 2 really strong attacks, or a jab for 1 fighting energy, does 130 damage, and you get to attach up to 3 basic fighting energy cards from your discard pile to your bench Pokemon any way you like. And the second attack, Mega Brave, for a whopping 2 fighting energy, so not very expensive at all, does 270 damage, and next turn you can't use Mega Brave. But you can still just use Aura Jab, right? So you can hit something for 270 and then finish them off for 130. So yeah, still a very powerful card overall, I would say. But yeah, before we start, just some thoughts on the deck. The Lucario deck honestly looks pretty good overall. There's plenty of support options to get the most out of it. The deck is mainly based around attaching energy with Lucario and then getting big when it kills with the power per item that we'll look at in just a second. The deck also has a lot of support going for it, but might suffer in a prize race due to giving up 3 prize cards, which I think is like the main problem with all these megas. Like, I think none of them are particularly garbage, like none of them are terrible or anything, but the fact that they do give up 3 prize cards does make them a little bit of a liability. And, your opponent is going to look to find a way to exploit that fact. It's half the prize cards you need to win the game. It's kind of crazy. So, yeah. However, Iron Hands and Hariyama could be used to skewer the prize race in the deck's favor. So, Hariyama being a 1-prizer, of course, that can attack very easily in this deck, and Iron Hands could be there to cheat even more prize cards from your opponent. So, yeah, quite potent options. Also, we don't get these cards until September, so a lot of this is still speculation on how I think the decks run and how I would build the deck with the current card pool. So, do let me know if you disagree or happen to agree with anything brought up in the video. But yeah, the main pie slices are as follows. I would say maybe either a 2-2 line or like a 3-3 line of Mega Lucario is needed. You probably won't ever need to attack with more than 2 in a game, just because, it's giving up 3 prize cards, so, it's not going to it's not going to be a case of making your opponent chew through 3 or 4 of these guys and then have to super rod them back in. That's not going to be happening, but at the same time, you do want to be able to find them consistently and not have to like dig through your entire deck just to find your 1 copy of Mega Lucario. So yeah, 2 or 3 copies for sure. I'd also play a 2-2 split of the new Lunatone and Solrock, so that's 2 Lunatone, 2 Solrock. Lunar Cycle is just a very strong ability, just says if you have Solrock in play, you may discard a basic fighting energy card from your hand and then draw 3 cards. Just a very straightforward draw engine that also has great synergy with Aura Jab. So yeah, definitely really like this guy. It just means you don't have to run Dunsparce, which might not be such a bad option if you're going to play things like Precious Trolley and Artisan, but I think overall Lunaton is just such a solid basic and just a really strong Pokemon overall. I would definitely recommend at least trying out Lunaton and Solrock before moving back to things like Dunsparce or Dracoloak. But yeah, also Hariyama, I would say, is maybe a 2-2 line in the deck. You could maybe even go to 3-3 potentially, but Hariyama has the very powerful ability Heavy Catcher, which is basically just boss's orders. But also Wild Press, doing 210 damage for 3 fighting energy is impressive, especially in this deck because we have the very powerful item Premium Power Pro, which will increase your damage by plus 30 for a turn. Plus, Aura Jab can just charge up your Hariyama. So even after you've evolved Hariyama and you've used the ability, it's not just going to sit on the bench collecting dust, right? You can actually charge up energy to it using Aura Jab, and then, use Wild Press on something to kind of like skewer the prize race in your favor. You can maybe even try and get it to the point where you set up several Hariyamas and just go from there for the rest of the game, and then maybe come in there with like a Blood Moon Ursona EX or like an Iron Hands EX, something like that, So, yeah, I do really like Hariyama in this deck. I do think it's going to be really strong. Yeah, as for some other attackers or options, I've gone with Iron Hands, just because Ampy very much costs 1 lightning and 4 colorless. So of course you could just use a Aura Jab to power up the 3 fighting to provide the colorless, and then you can do 120, and anything you knock out, you get 1 more prize card. Really nice, because if you knock out a Mega with this, of course, you're going to take 4 prize cards, which is crazy. So what you could do is try and go behind on prize card. Like, say your opponent KOs your Riolu, right, on like the second turn of the game. You use your Hariyama with a reverse energy, for example, to KO like a Pheasantipity. Take 2 prize cards, then, I don't know, they KO Hariyama, they take another prize card. Then you could promote Mega Lucario, hit into their Mega Evolution for 270, in theory, right? And then finish them off with Ampy very much, and yeah, then you just won at that point. So, yeah, it's probably easier said than done, and of course it's going to require some testing, but I do think Ampy very much is absolutely worth it in this deck. especially when you're already doing 270. Like even 130 can combo quite nicely, or like even a wild press can follow up with an ampy very much, can be very good. Like it's just going to be a case of like how many times do you want to aura jab as well, and how many times you want to try and focus on using Mega Brave. But overall, I would definitely say Iron Hands is absolutely worth trying out in this deck. I also really like Lily's Determination. It's just a bog standard shuffle draw 6, which is really nice, but it is a shuffle draw 8 on your first turn if you have 6 prize cards remaining. So, really nice. It also just means that if you happen to be playing against like a Mega Evolution deck and you've not taken a KO yet, you're just going to use Aura Jab to soften up a bunch of their targets, then you're always going to get the shuffle draw 8 effect as well. I wouldn't encourage maybe doing that, but so still something to bear in mind if Mega Evolutions become the norm. Like you might not just want to take your prize cards immediately, especially against Megas. So yeah, Lee's Determination is really nice. I also quite like Fighting Gong, which says search your deck for basic fighting Pokemon or basic fighting energy, reveal it and put it in your hand. Really good item. It definitely means that like your Solar Rock and Lunatones are like much easier to find. Your Makahita's much easier to find. Your Riolu's much easier to find. It is still technically, it is still technically the equivalent of a nest ball or like an energy search. So there is a strong argument to try and play like the Precious Trolley ace spec as well. And maybe you just like don't really focus on the gong. Maybe play 2 or 3 gongs, but like you mainly just play like the Precious Trolley ace spec because like all of your basics are going to be big. They're all going to have a ton of HP. Maybe Precious Trolley is actually just the way to go. But I think maybe Nest Ball with Gong and a different ace spec could be the possible way. So still, all very fun options, and it's nice to see the support. But yeah, here's some Premium Power Pro maths. So this item will, of course, increase your damage by plus 30 for a turn. If you use on Aura Jab, then the math doesn't really start getting interesting until you play 3. And then at that point, you're doing 220, which is enough to get rid of things like Ogerpon, which is cool. And then 250 is kind of like a weird number. It's not really enough to deal with anything massive. It will get you stuff like Raging Bolt, for example. Like that's the big one at 240. But 250, aside from that, won't do much. Like, yeah, with a maximum belt, you'll carry a lot more stuff, but this is assuming you don't have maximum belt. So, yeah, 250. It's a lot of work, basically, but it is doable, and that's just for a single energy. And then Mega Brave is where things get really silly very quickly. Like, 1 Premium Power Pro takes you to 300, which is already a massive increase. And then 330, of course, is the golden number right now. KOs things like, well, Mega Manectric already had weakness, but like Charizard, Grimmsnarl, things like that all go down at 330. So you will be able to do that twice in a game, by the way, for 2 Premium Power Pros. So yeah, you will be able to do that twice, which is cool. And then for 3, you can do 360, which will get some of the bigger megas like Camerupt. And then for 4, which is quite expensive, you can do 390, which is enough to take down a Mega Venusaur in a single hit, provided they don't have a Hero's Cape. And of course, you could just run Scrapper as well if you want to really worry about Hero's Cape. But yeah, 390 is huge. Like, I'm assuming you'd want to do that only if you knew it would basically win you the game. Like, if you KO with every Venusaur, you win the game. They don't have another Venusaur just ready to go, right? Otherwise, it's kind of a waste, I feel like. But still, like, 390 is a lot. But you should still have, like, a fairly good time against Venusaur. Like, you're not weak to grass or anything. So, yeah, 390 is a lot, though. It's a lot of damage. But yeah, as for Hariyama, we did kind of touch on this earlier, but with Reverse Energy, you can basically just evolve, bring up a Pheasantipity, tap a Reverse Energy, or, maybe you've already charged one up with Aura Jab, and then you can just one-shot their Fez, or, one-shot their Ogerpon, or one-shot anything that's weak to fighting. So, like, Mega Kangaskhan, for example, gets one-shot by this, which is hilarious. So, yeah, in the Area Zero deck, they're going to be very scared of this card, because you can just one-shot all their kind of, like, support Pokemon, like Mew EX and stuff, which is cool. Also, with 1 Premium Power Pro, you can knock out a Raging Bolt, which is quite impressive. The 2 Premium Power Pros, you're doing 270, which isn't really enough to get rid of most things. It's like 10 shy away from the golden 280. But for 3 Premium Power Pros, you can do 300, which is getting very scary at that point. And then if you want to sack all 4 on Hariyama, which I would not recommend, but if you really want to, you can do 330. So that is a pretty epic number to want to kill Grimmsnarl or something. But, still, very impressive damage overall for a single prizer. And I think you will need a single prizer in this deck to like really skewer the prize trade a bit. But yeah, this is what a board state might look like. Something that I've not touched upon yet is Wally's Compassion. Just says heal all damage from one of your Mega Evolution. And then if you heal any damage in this way, put energy, attach that Pokemon into your hand. I mean, who cares? You only need 1 or 2 energy anyway. And Aura Jab can just reset your entire board, even if you end up discarding that energy with Vessel, Ultra Ball, that sort of thing anyway. So Like Wise Compassion just seems like an immediate 2 really in this deck, but just in my opinion. But yeah, especially if you want to go like the tanky route with like things like Hero's Cape, for example, or like what's that item that says your fighting Pokemon take 30 less damage from attacks? I think it's yeah, there is one fighting item that does that was in Scarlet and Violet base set, but that's like a fun option as well if you really want to. So you can also like lean into the very tanky aspects of Lucario. Like it's not just a one KO deck; it's a tank deck really, especially with your own Hero's Cape. You're up to 440, which is wild. But yeah, this is what the board state might look like. You got Lunatone, you got Solrock, because you have to have both in play in order to trigger Lunatone's ability. Then you'll also need Mega Lucario X. You could actually attack with Solrock, by the way, if you're curious as to what it does. For a single energy, it does 70 damage, but you need to have Lunatone in play. But, of course, that's quite an easy requirement with this deck. And with Premium Power Pro, you can do 100, 130, 160, and then 190 tops, so that's a nice single price attacker as well. You probably want another Mega Lucario just in case the first one gets 2 damage and you want to retreat it. And then, of course, like a Hariyama, and then you've got a bench slot spare for like Pheasantipity or something like that. So, yeah, quite a nice combo overall. I would say maybe the best ace spec could be Hero's Cape, to be honest, but like Precious Trolley seems very powerful in this deck. Like I know Fighting Gong is such a powerful item, but being able to just get all your Pokemon like guaranteed setup with an Arven seems really strong. And then Prime Catcher is really nice as well, just easy gusts. Maximum Belt is just a bit silly because at that point you're adding plus 50 more damage to all the math we've already talked about. So everything's just that bit much easier to get a KO. And then Scoop Up Cyclone says just put one of your Pokemon all cards attached to it back into your hand. So it's like a miniature Wally basically, but it's an item. So you can just reset an entire Lucario or Hariyama if you want to use the ability again. So yeah, very powerful ace spec. But yeah, thank you for watching. I'm just going to close this off by mentioning Cornerstone Ogre Ponyx. I know a lot of people don't like it, but if you really don't like Venusaur, then this might be a good one for you, or like a couple of other decks that are really focused on abilities, then yeah, Cornerstone might be a good tech card to consider. But yes, remember power, let me know what you think about Mega Lucario down below. Will you be trying it out? And yeah, thank you for watching.